Centuries ago, a remarkably wise and valiant monarch named King Indradyumna ruled with a righteous heart. One night, the king experienced a vivid and extraordinary dream. Lord Vishnu himself materialized before him, speaking with divine resonance. Deep within the rugged terrain of Kalinga, not far from the shores of Puri, rests a sacred relic that pulses with my true presence. The time has come to unveil this phenomenon to humanity. I have chosen you, Indradyumna, to be the instrument of this grand revelation. While it was the highest honor to be chosen by the Lord himself, Vishnu had left him without a single clue as to where or how he might find this hidden relic. King Indradyumna was in deep thoughts. After deep reflection, the king summoned his most trusted courtiers. Traveling toward the eastern lands was Vidyapati, the sharpest and most brilliant scholar of the court. Vidyapati called out, "I am Vidyapati, an emissary of King Indradyumna. I've lost my bearings in these woods and have been searching endlessly for a path out." The young woman smiled warmly and replied, "I am Lalita, daughter of the Sabara chieftain. Visvavasu, come with me. My father will gladly shelter you." True to her word, Lalita brought Vidyapati to her village, where Chief Visvavasu welcomed the weary traveler with open arms. Over weeks of deep spiritual discussions, the host and guest forged a profound bond. It wasn't long before the chieftain noticed that his clever daughter Lalita and the handsome emissary were falling deeply in love. Recognizing their mutual affection, Visvavasu approached Vidyapati with a gentle proposal of marriage, which the young scholar accepted with immense joy and gratitude. Yet, even as he settled into his new life, Vidyapati noticed a curious ritual. Every single day, rain or shine, Visvavasu would slip away before dawn carrying a handful of fresh flowers, returning an hour later. Unable to contain his curiosity any longer, Vidyapati asked Lalita about her father's mysterious morning routine. Reluctant at first, she finally whispered, "My father visits a hidden cave deep in the forest. Within it rests a divine relic sacred to our lineage." A jolt of electricity ran through Vidyapati. Could this be the very object King Indradyumna was sent to find? He pressed Lalita to ask her father for permission to pay his respects. Visvavasu flatly refused at first, guarding his family's ancient secret. But when Lalita persisted with unwavering determination, the chieftain finally relented on one strict condition: Vidyapati must be blindfolded the entire way. The next morning, as the forest was still wrapped in shadows, the journey began. As Lalita guided the blindfolded scholar through the twisting thickets, Vijayapati secretly reached into his pouch, dropping tiny mustard seeds along the trail to mark the path. When the blindfold was finally slipped off inside the dim coal cavern, Vijayapati gasped. A breathtaking, ethereal blue-gold luminescence radiated from an ancient stone, though it possessed no definitive shape. Its overwhelming radiance and divine aura convinced him instantly this was the divine presence he had been sent to find. A few days later, knowing he had to report back to his sovereign, Vijayapati told his wife he needed to visit his parents. Vijayapati rushed back to the royal court, breathless and eager. He recounted every detail of his journey to King Indradyumna, from losing his way in the dense forest to stumbling upon the hidden Triba settlement, his marriage to Lalita, the secret blindfolded trek, and the breathtaking blue stone resting inside the cave. Listening intently, the wise monarch instantly knew that Vijayapati had successfully located the sacred relic. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, something miraculous unfolded. When Visvavasu approached the cave to offer his daily prayers, a powerful, disembodied voice echoed through the sacred blue stone. The divine presence spoke, "Vasu, your devoted service has reached its end. We will no longer reside in this hidden cave or take this secret form. We are transforming into the sacred Dara form, destined to be enshrined and worshipped openly by King Indradyumna in a grand temple." Meanwhile, the mustard seeds have sprouted. When King Indradyumna arrived at the spot following the sprouted mustard plants, the blue stone had vanished. The king was heartbroken. That very same night, the vision returned to the king in his sleep. In this dream, Lord Vishnu instructed Indradyumna to walk down to the seashore, where a miraculous floating log would soon drift ashore, carrying the material meant to form the sacred deities. The next morning, King wakes up and orders his guards to search the coastline to look for a divine log. A massive glowing log washed up in the beach. The king's happiness knew no bounds. Finally, he was nearing his mission. The king ordered his men to move the Daro Brahma, but the log wouldn't move an inch. More men were brought in, but the Daro Brahma wouldn't budge. The poor king sat on the beach without eating a crumb, just waiting and waiting for his dream to be fulfilled. That night, in a dream, the Lord again spoke to the king, saying, "Bring my previous devotee Vishwavasu, who used to serve me as Nila Madhava, and place a golden chariot in front of Dara Brahma." Next morning, the king, accompanied by Vijayapati, rushed to meet Visvavasu. Indradyumna apologized to Visvavasu for the conduct of his emissary. He then told the chief about how Lord Vishnu had appeared in his dream and given him directions. Vijayapati also asked for his forgiveness. The king asks Visvavasa to come with him. "Oh, Sabara chief, you have been guarding the Lord with great devotion and dedication, but now the time has come to share the divine presence with entire humanity. This is Lord's will." The noble Visvavasa reconciled to the situation and came along with the king to the beach. Visvavasa was able to move the Daro Brahma on the chariot. Indradyumna and Visvavasa embraced each other. The divine log was taken to the appointed place. There was huge cheering and celebration all around the kingdom. However, King Indradyumna realized that the mission had still not been achieved. No one knew what would be the exact shape of the deity. To carve the deity of Lord Jagannath from the Daro Brahma, King Indradyumna called many expert sculptors. None of them was able to touch Daro Brahma, for as soon as they started, their chisels broke and fell to pieces. The king is in despair and hoping it would be resolved by his favorite lord. Finally, the Supreme Lord himself came in the disguise of an old artist. The old man appeared before the king. "Your Majesty, I hear you seek a master wood carver," an elderly stranger announced. "I can shape the sacred logs, but I require one absolute condition." Thrilled to find someone willing to accept the impossible task, the king urged him on. "Give me a private workshop. No one must enter, disturb, or watch me until my work is finished, and I open the doors myself." Sensing divine guidance behind the old man's arrival, King Indradyumna readily agreed. A grand hall was quickly transformed into a secure workshop, fully stocked with every tool and instrument the craftsman needed. Sealing himself inside, he immediately set to work. Confident the master craftsman would create something extraordinary, the king waited with quiet optimism. Queen Gundicha Devi, however, harbored deep doubts. Daily, she pressed her ear against the door, only returning to her chambers once she heard the familiar tap of tools at work. Time went by. Just 2 weeks later, panic gripped the queen. Convinced the silent workshop meant the old man had perished, she begged the king to force the doors open. Although the king's minister again and again forbade him, the king, on the advice of his queen Gundicha, by force opened the door with his own hand. The old sculptor had disappeared. He was none other than the divine architect Lord Visvakarma. The idols were unfinished. The Daro Brahma was manifested in 3 forms, as Lord Jagannath, Lord Balabhadra, and Subhadra. Overwhelmed with grief at having failed the Lord, the king sank into despair. Suddenly, a divine voice echoed around him, the voice of Vishnu himself. O king, shed your sorrow. Worship me just as I am. This unfinished form reflects the true imperfect nature of humanity. Relieved, the king and queen rejoiced, the latter finally forgiving herself for her impatience. Thus the merciful Lord Jagannath, Balabhadra, and Subhadra appeared in this material world to benefit all living beings. Once a year, the merciful Lord Jagannath leaves the sanctum to grant darshan to all, regardless of status. Pulling his chariot symbolizes drawing the Lord into one's heart, a spiritual journey of devotion, surrender, and the soul's return to the divine.